Eric, you're a naturalist. You believe in the scientific picture of the world, that everything we see has physical causes and effects, and we don't need to inject anything in this world that is of an immaterial nature.
Correct.
Okay. In that case, it would seem to be that any sort of hope in life after death is impossible.
Any hope that your consciousness is going to continue in a self-same, self-identical way through death, in other words, any hope that you're going to survive death is a false hope, I would say.
Okay. Does that end the story?
I don't think that ends the story. Now, some of the older philosophers like Descartes and, even Aquinas thought that there was some immaterial part of you. You mentioned that, some immaterial part of you that survives death. And that part is a thinking substance. It thinks. And so you'd be like thinking, well, I'm dying. Well, this kind of hurts. But, then it would pass and it'd be like getting a tooth pulled or something. You'd be like, okay, now I'm doing other stuff. And there'd be a continuity of consciousness like you have when you're awake. I think that's false. I think consciousness is just a brain process. And so when you're in a body process too, of course, but when your brain dies, your body dies, your consciousness is extinguished permanently. I don't think that renders life after death impossible. If you even go back to the earliest Judaic and Christian accounts of resurrection, right? One of the views of resurrection is the extinction recreation view. And there's good evidence for that in the Old Testament and New Testament, is when you die, you're dead. And then God, they say this, right? Their view of God was that God had made the original version of you and God will make another one.
Right. That is very biblical as opposed to an immortality of the soul,
That's
which
correct.
is very Greek. So you definitely have in the Hebrew Bible the concept of death being absolutely dead, but then there is a future time when God will resurrect individuals.
That's correct.
And how could God do that? And the answer to that is if God could create him in the first place and resurrect him.
God can do it again.
Right.
That's right. That's the standard kind of Judaic and then actually early Christian,
Right.
in fact, New Testament view.
Even though today it's been really morphed into an immortal soul in most religions, in Judaism as well as Christianity, there's an immortal soul component to it, which is not the original.
That's right. The original doctrines didn't have that immortal soul, right? In fact, the soul doesn't really play any significant role in those early texts. So I like that extinction recreation account.
Right.
That has to be fixed up in various ways.
Well, I'm sure
right?
you can do it.
I better. That's my job.
Yeah, right.
But I follow in many ways what how John Hick developed it. He developed something like an extinction recreation account. Not entirely. But the idea is that, there's a universe and you're here, you're born, you die, and then you're dead. And God will create another universe and he will create a replica of you, of your life in that other universe. And so between this universe and the next, you don't exist.
You see, you had a tricky change of word there from resurrection, which I was pleased to go along with you, and then you talked about replica. I don't like a replica. I like the resurrection.
I'm not sure what the difference is between a resurrection and a replica in this sense. I mean, here, think of it this way. The old biblical image that you get is, the many who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awaken, right? So you die and your body goes to dust and is in the earth, and God will take that dust and rebuild your body.
Right.
Well, there's lots of problems with that.
Yeah, lots of problems, right.
Cannibalism and all this old stuff. Yeah. And so the most God can do, it would seem, would be to make a replica. It doesn't matter what the old stuff is. In fact, that never mattered because stuff goes through our bodies all the time.
All of our molecules change every few weeks or whatever.
Yes.
But there's a pattern there that forms our memories and whatever else.
It's the pattern that's important.
That's the pattern that's important.
So when we take that pattern
right.
and we reinstantiate it in some new stuff, that's a replica. And so the idea is now some people say, well, you shouldn't call that resurrection. You should, and that's kind of technical.
Well, no, it's not technical because it really speaks to, am I going to survive death? You've already said no.
I said no.
You said I'm
That's
right.
right.
Not going to survive death. So I'm ready.
Dead.
I'm ready. Get up and go home, have a beer, and forget the conversation. I'll stick with it for a while.
You're attached to yourself.
I am attached to myself. I mean, it's the only one I got. And I'd like to, keep.
But everyone agrees. Buddhists, Christians, right? Jews, the whole tradition. Everybody agrees. That's gone, man. That's an illusion.
Well, not everybody agrees,
but those who try to save themselves will lose it.
Okay, I mean, I'm willing to accept that and to see where it goes. But I am what I am, and I do want to maintain a personal identity. I mean, what I want is irrelevant. It's what's real. But to that's why I see a difference between replica and resurrection. Resurrection is you are literally the you that has the first person consciousness would come back to life. In the resurrection, however that occurs. Replica means something that looks like you, acts like
That's
you,
right.
thinks like you, is the pattern of you, but is not your first person consciousness.
That's correct.
And to me, that's the difference, between night and day. I mean, there's no.
That's fine, and I understand that. And my answer to that is, you're not going to get that first thing. I can't see any way that makes any sense to get that continuity of that first-person consciousness that survives death.
Well, you believe that there is something beyond the physical world. You believe that there are a certain kind of gods there.
That's correct.
Right? And why
beyond this physical universe?
Beyond this physical universe, there's certain God. Now, if a God could make this universe, why couldn't a God recreate my first-person consciousness?
Well, I take it.
Could a God do that?
Actually, I think that's impossible.
You think that's impossible?
I think that's logically impossible.
Logically, why?
Because your first-person consciousness exists only now. And at some other time, some other place, some other universe, what is anchored to the now, here and now, this universe, this moment, this point in time, right, and space, that can't be recreated ever. Once this now is gone, it'll never be.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I have a sense of continuity for every now as it goes forward. I mean, I have this unity of personal consciousness.
If you're only asking for a unity and a continuity, then we can give that to you easily. We can make a robot that thinks it was you.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't be you.
But would it have? It wouldn't be able to transfer my internal sense of self right now. I would blank out. So the robot would claim to be me and act like me and fool everybody.
Why would you black out? Why couldn't your internal sense of self be copied and transferred all over the place?
Oh, it could be, but it wouldn't be my awareness and my life.
You think of your awareness as a substance that has a permanence and an endurance of its own. That's an illusion, I would say. That is an illusion generated by your brain.
Well, when I'm awake and I have when I sleep at night, let's say I don't dream, put the dreams to a side, there's a period of time where I am totally unconscious or under anesthesia or medical procedure or whatever. And then I wake up.
That's right.
And I think I'm the same person that was before the tooth extraction.
That's right.
I think I'm the same person.
But that's just because the pattern in your brain has remained the same and it's generating an illusion again.
So I'm saying that after death, the period of when I was under anesthetic or a dreamless night, instead of being 2 hours or 8 hours in sleep, it's a trillion years. Won't make any difference to me, but it could be the same. It could. I'm asking whether your gods have the capability.
Illusion.
I want to know whether your gods can create that interpersonal experience that I feel now, so that I feel it's the same difference as when I wake up in the morning after 8 hours of dreamless sleep. Can your God do that?
Well, my gods, yes, they could do that, but that's not actually very hard. We could do that just by making a duplicate of your brain here.
So you then would believe that if you made a duplicate of my brain here, then that would have the same sense of first-person awareness that I have.
Absolutely.
That the equivalent of when I go to bed at night and wake up after a dreamless sleep.
That's right.
You
because that brain would be just a copy of your brain. It would have the exact same structure, and so it would generate the same illusory concept.
So if you can do it once or twice, you
does.
you can do it infinite
as
number
many
of times
as you want.
And so what my first person consciousness then has an infinite number of bodies that it's thinking through. It's going to get talk about schizophrenia.
Well, it wouldn't be schizophrenia. They'd all be each attached to their own bodies at different places and different times.
It wouldn't be the same internal sense that I have. They'd be like a very close clone, be like a twin brother.
Well, if you were looking at them from the outside, if you were the guy making the copies, yeah, you would see that.
No, but the
copy is going to think. Each of these copies at that moment of creation is going to think.
That's right.
They're going to have that same illusory experience. I don't put too much interest in having that persistence of that experience. I would like all the things that Eric Steinhart could do but can't do here, that my pattern, my soul, the form of my body, I would like that form to have all of its potentials realized. That's not going to happen all at once. It's going to have to grow. It's going to have to develop through many iterations and developments. What it feels like to be a better, I don't even know. I would like not to have the same first person consciousness that I have now, because often that first person consciousness is consciousness of a lot of defects. First of all, it's consciousness of having an itchy nose and allergies and this weak little body. I want a different kind of consciousness. I want a better brain that's going to be my pattern, potentialities of my pattern actualized. I want a transformation of consciousness, not a persistence of consciousness.